Hi, welcome to Hollywood Crime Scene. This is Rachel Fisher.
Hi, this is Desi Jedeikin.
Desi, I'd like to report a crime, a real life crime that happened in Hollywood 2 nights ago to me.
Okay.
Not only did it happen in Hollywood, but it involved
A crime?
it involved a Hollywood actor in Hollywood. I was a victim of a crime at dinner the other night. I don't mean to like blow this whole story wide open, but my boyfriend, who's an actor, he took my phone from me and he tweeted some stuff that was very off-brand from my phone.
Was it off-brand?
Here's the thing. Some people with a less discerning nose or taste might think, oh, it's dirty and gross, so it's very on-brand for Rachel. But I feel like I have a finesse to the way that I tweet about nasty things. And I just feel like my voice wasn't represented.
Your boyfriend does not have that finesse.
Not when he's tweeting.
When he's drunk
Not
tweeting.
when he's drunk tweeting from my phone.
Listen, drunk tweeting is an art form.
Desi
as
has
everyone knows.
mastered that. So I feel like I just wanted to address that because I had some @replies that I got about a tweet that was tweeted out about me peeing in someone's butt, which never happened.
That's very Miranda July, right? Or is that's pooping in someone's butt?
What?
Or wait, you never saw that movie?
No.
She has a movie. I can't remember. The kid says to someone, oh man, I can't remember. I shouldn't say this without knowing what I'm talking about, but I'll still go on. It's something about I want to poop in your butt and then have it go back and forth between my butt to your butt and keep going like that forever. And it's like a romantic kind of notion. I mean, obviously.
You should see my face right now.
So yeah, I mean, it's been done.
God, Brendan's just not that original. I'm really insulted now. I'm feeling all kinds of hurt.
It's very indie movie, so I feel like don't worry about it.
He was an indie movie star, so that's probably where he got it from.
Maybe.
I'm going to have to interview him about that later. Anyway, I just need to get that off my chest. I just need to report that crime that happened. It can happen to all of us.
No one's ever stolen my phone and tweeted under my name and lived to tell. And I'm just kidding. I don't even know. No one has my password for my phone. I can't have that.
Right.
There's things on there.
There's important gifts on there.
Anyways, so let's get to the real crime this week. So this week we're going to talk to you about Bob Crane. Rachel, do you know who Bob Crane is?
I do. He was on a very popular show in the 60s, right? I believe.
Uh-huh. So anyways, so I'm going to give you the rundown because he's probably... I don't think he's super well known, but he should be.
I was actually surprised, pleasantly surprised, that a lot of our listeners had requested a Bob Crane episode.
I tweeted something when I was researching. I think it was, anyways, I'm not going to give it away, but I tweeted something about it and everyone was like, oh, please tell me you're going to do Bob Crane. So it was kind of good because sometimes I feel like I do the older people and they're not as popular as like the cool, young, hip crimes.
But this story
is very on brand for both of us, I think. Anyways,
it really is.
Okay, so Bob Crane was an actor, though he was probably best known as for his acting career. So, but he was born July 13th, 1928 in Connecticut, where he spent pretty much his whole childhood. In junior high school, he took up the drums and he started, I thought this was super fucking nerdy, he started organizing local drum and bugle parades in the neighborhood.
Bugle parades?
Yeah. And then... So he kind of he thought he'd be a drummer. That was his goal. He wanted to be like the next Buddy Rich, who was like a big band drummer at the time. Do you have feelings on drummers? Because I find them very irritating.
Here's the thing about drummers. In theory, very hot. In practice, literally when they're practicing, I want to fucking kill myself.
I think of drummers as like every kid I knew who had ADD and their parents put them on the drums to get out all of their energy.
And then they regret it.
Yeah. And then so when I think of drummers, I think of that. I'm sorry. I'm sure I have some followers and people who listen who are drummers. I'm sure I would like you.
No, the drums are great. Yeah. I'm just saying I don't want to hear you practice.
Right. So anyways, in 1949, he... married his high school sweetheart, Anne Terzian, and they had 3 children, Robert, Deborah, and Karen. So at some point, Bob actually when music kind of shifted from big band dance, where the drummer is really important.
Right.
Anyone who's been irritated by the swing scene knows there's like a certain beat per minute you want to hit when
Desi
you're dancing.
just had
right?
a flashback.
Yeah. And then it's kind of switched over to crooners, which was like not a dance oriented music, right?
Right.
So he kind of wasn't as into that, and he started working in radio. Eventually he was really popular. He's like a very charming guy and a great kind of radio host for the time. He was really funny and witty and all of that kind of stuff. Eventually he got a gig at CBS Radio hosting their morning show, and it was a huge fucking hit. So it was kind of like a radio show at the time that you want to think like maybe like a morning zoo type thing, but like not as irritating. He had like games, and he would have drumming bits, so he kind of used his drumming bits, and then just chatting and like little like sketch kind of bits. And then he would also have big celebrity guests like Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, Bob Hope. So it was like a big time show, and his show quickly topped the morning ratings, and he became the king of Los Angeles airwaves. So kind of like Howard Stern is the king of all media.
He was the OG Howard Stern.
Right, he's the OG in more ways than one. He's even more OG than Howard Stern. We'll find out.
I'm so excited.
So, of course, as with anything, what he really wanted to do was act, because you're in LA and you're like,
you see the
radio, you're like schmoozing with these people, but you're still not as cool because you're only radio.
Right.
What are we? Podcast. So we're even lower than radio.
Right.
We're way cooler though. So what happened was he kind of started using his connections that he would, have these famous people on his show. Eventually he had Carl Reiner on his radio show, and he kind of schmoozed Carl Reiner into giving him a guest appearance on the Dick Van Dyke Show, which is a very big show at the time.
Very big deal.
After he was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, Donna Reed saw him on that and offered him a guest shot on her program, and that actually turned into a recurring role.
The Donna Reed Show.
Yes, which was also a big show at the time. So he was doing his TV show and his radio gig simultaneously until I think 1964. That's when his agent came to him with a lead role on a new show that would start filming in 1965. Here's a quote from his agent. Bob, have I got a script for you? Prisoner of war camp in World War II, Nazi commanders, German shepherds, gun towers, the whole strudel. The whole strudel? I mean, this is a quote from his son Robert's book about his dad.
The whole strudel.
The whole strudel, which is like, come on.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then, so, obviously you hear Nazi show, you think drama, right? You don't think comedy.
Right.
So, according to the Sun, Bob said, thanks, but I want to do comedy. I want to be Dick Van Dyke. I want to be Jack Lemmon. I'm not a dramatic actor. The agent says, Bob, what are you talking about? This is a comedy. These are funny Nazis.
Remember all that shit that just happened literally 20 years ago?
Right. Comedy is tragedy this time.
Plus
Come
only
on.
20 years.
And then, this is like before Life is Beautiful. So in 1965, he started filming Hogan's Heroes, which is actually a show that I watched when I was a kid. Not when it was on. It was like reruns.
On Nick at Night?
I don't remember what it was on. Just like before cable had like a million stations, you just watched old shows, right?
Look,
like
back in our
Bewitched
day, we
and
watched
like I
all
Dream
the
of
old
Jeannie,
shows.
and like all the old shows were just
Yeah.
on cable.
I
think I used to watch on like TBS, and TNT would like have Brady Bunch, and like all of those kind of old shows were in syndication.
Back in our day. We got to see all those shows.
When we only had black and white TVs. Just kidding. So I did watch Hogan's Heroes, but I don't really have a strong memory of it, but I remember liking it. And I did remember thinking that Bob Crane was kind of cute.
He is kind of cute.
The show was an instant success when it started airing in the fall of 65. He actually used his drumming again in the opening credits. The theme song has like a snare drum part, and Crane played
Bob
that.
Crane.
That's Bob Crane. The series lasted for 6 seasons, and Crane was actually nominated for an Emmy Award twice for Best Actor in a Comedy, 1966 and 67. It was on the set of Hogan's Heroes that he kind of started getting a little freaky. He actually ended up having an affair with a cast member who played Hilda, who was Colonel Klink's secretary, like a sexy, Swiss Miss type braided
Right.
German vixen. Her real name is Patricia Olsen, but her screen name was Sigrid Valdis. And I don't know, it's like, was that just for this role that you just got like this sort of Nordic?
Usually you make your stage name less ethnic sounding.
So, sorry. He divorced Anne in 1970, just before their 21st anniversary, and he married Olsen on the set of the show, actually. And then they ended up having a son, Scotty, in 1971, and adopted a daughter later named Anna Marie. So as I said before, this is where he sort of, he became famous.
Yeah.
So he started getting freaky with the ladies, wherever you want to put it. He was very popular guy. This is not some seedy, gross perv. I just want to make that clear. He was very popular. Everyone on set loved him. No one has anything bad to say about him at this point. He wasn't like a creepy perv, but he was a creepy perv. He, in private, he had this dark secret, and he was kind of a sex addict before that was like, he was David Duchovny before, like he was a sex addict before it even was considered a thing. Like, so it was sort of on the set of Hogan's Heroes that he really started doing these things that I'm going to get into in a bit. In fact, his wife, Patricia, she's quoted as saying, from almost the first day on the set, he told me his hobby was photography.
Oh,
I didn't
really?
figure it was landscape. He brought over a double thick briefcase, and it was filled with like 4 rows of slides in a box about that big. I don't know what she's saying, that big, but I'm guessing a slide box. And there were thousands of slides of all the women in his life. So he was very open and proud about his conquest, and even showed his potential, like a woman he wanted to like marry eventually.
Can you imagine your significant other pulling out a giant box of photographs?
I mean, I guess it's a good way to see what they'll put up with. Like,
right.
I mean, you got to give him credit for at least getting it out of the way, right? And not like bringing it up after they're already in love with you.
Right. That's true.
So he would basically videotape and photograph all of his sexual escapades. He had hundreds of hardcore Polaroids and videotapes. And it was during this period that fellow cast member Richard Dawson, who you might know as the Purr from Family Feud,
yes,
introduced Crane to a man named John Henry Carpenter. He worked for Sony and was kind of like an audio visual guy for the stars. Like he would help people set up their home video equipment, which was a new technology at this period. So I think most people were using it for like, watching TV and setting up, making home movies and whatever. But Bob Crane obviously had a different interest. The two of them became friends and kind of united in their sexual. They were both kinky pervs.
Right.
So they kind of became best friends and just really started living this swingers lifestyle, like hitting up singles ads or whatever Craigslist of the day was and going to swinger parties. There's a quote from Bob Crane that is from John Henry Carpenter said that he said, "A day without sex is a day wasted." Which you gotta like, it's kind of amazing, right?
It's like a tweet one of us would do.
So basically Crane would use his celebrity status to kind of attract women. Carpenter said that he would say Carpenter's his manager, and then Carpenter would videotape these sexual encounters for Bob Crane. Whoa. So that was like the little scheme they had going.
So he was actually able to convince these women, like, look, we're going to fuck, but my manager is going to be in the corner filming.
Right. There's a bit of controversy about whether the women knew or not. Oh. According to Carpenter and Crane, every woman knew. I mean, they weren't signing
weren't signing
consent
a release,
forms or releases. And then there are some reports that some women did not know. But I bet you it was like a combination of both, right? So there's a lot of people verify that this was going on because he showed them. So there's lots of quotes that I'm going to go over right now. One of the people was Mark Dawson, who is the son of Richard Dawson. When he was 17, Bob Crane showed him some of these videos.
Oh, that is such a pedo move.
It's really gross, right? So according to Mark Dawson, he's quoted as saying, he was carting a couple of videotapes in a Polaroid book. He went into the other room and then he called me in. Hey, come in. You want to take a look at this stuff? The first 10 or 15 minutes, it was very interesting. Unnerving, I got to tell you. It was a little shocking to see Colonel Hogan au naturel. Couldn't watch Hogan's the same way again after that.
No.
And then he goes on to say, it was like here's him talking about what Crane's attitude was about showing these things to people.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, look at this one. Look at that one. I don't know if proud is the right word, but sort of, look what I got. She's a real winner, huh? Some of them were and some of them weren't. He was excited. He was happy about it. He was like a kid with a toy.
Like he's showing them pictures from his trip to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's just like, look at this. Oh man, look at this girl's pussy. Look what I got. Like, look at her bending over here. Like, can you imagine? Like, it's so weird. A 17-year-old son of your castmate, okay?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's like the classic pedo move. Like, hey, you want to watch some porn together?
But, you know,
Not
it wasn't...
that he was a pedophile.
No,
but, like,
but it is like a grooming kind of like
that's just... I
technique.
know that that's one of those techniques.
Definitely, because you get them a little warmed up. Like, oh, okay, well, why don't we just both take our dicks out and start jerking off? Like, that's the next move. Like, hey, like, let's do this. It wasn't just his friends' kids, though, that he was showing. He showed his own kids.
No.
His son, Robert Crane... describes his dressing room on the set of Hogan's Heroes as porn central. Robert said that he was only 16 years old when he visited the set of Hogan's Hero one summer, and that's when he was exposed for the first time to his father's, he describes it, sextravaganza. He also said it was with a woman who had been arrested in Texas for performing oral. I'm sorry. But she refused to do that on film, he said. And she did just about everything else before my unblinking teenaged eyes. This might have been my dad's clumsy Hollywood way of having a birds and bees talk with me, his coming of age son. But what strikes me now looking back is that his equipment laden room was another in a series of tech heavy habitats that grew progressively darker. I don't know what that means, but it's just kind of like, so his take on it, I guess, is like, here's how I'm going to show you what sex is like. Like, watch your dad cream pie this actress.
I think it's a little bit different than that. I don't think Bob was ever doing this to try and explain to his son.
What I'm fascinated is that the woman was arrested for performing oral sex, but then she refused to do that on film, but did everything else. Like it's like in Pretty Woman where she refuses to kiss.
It's her, like she had a bad memory from giving a blowjob, so she was like, no.
Or maybe she was like, I don't want to have that illegal act on film. Like, because porn was kind of illegal.
It was kind of illegal, right? Yeah. We talked about that in Wonderland.
So, he actually, besides the sex aspect of it, he really did consider himself like an amateur photographer. Like, he did take the photography aspect of it seriously. Yes, he had a portable darkroom that he set up in his apartment so he could quickly develop the still images that he took. I mean, this is before like digital. Like, he didn't have a phone. He was taking film photos and then developing them. And I guess he had the Polaroids also. According to his son, the red light was always on in my dad's makeshift film processing lab. He's just like processing porn constantly. Jesus. Once again, after she found out even more the depth of what he was doing, because he's cheating on his wife all the time, she was fine with it. So here's some quotes from her, which I thought were pretty hilarious. The first one is, he didn't lose his First Amendment rights when he married me. He loved having sex and he loved filming it. He never broke any laws. Nothing he did was unconstitutional. It's like, okay, Patricia. And then this one is fucking chef's kiss. I know it sounds crazy. Maybe some people listening to me will think I am crazy. Bob used these women. He said, I wish when I finished with them, I could just push a button and they'd fall through the floor and disappear. Now, how could I be jealous of something like that? He treated women like the rest of the world treats toilet paper. Who's going to be jealous of toilet paper?
Whoa.
Dude, that is hardcore.
That is like
I was like, your husband seems more he seems better adjusted than you do.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that is some hardcore rationalization right
there. That's
some
intersexual competition.
Wow.
Isn't that insane?
That's like, you got to do some real justification in your head.
This seems like if they were an nth degree more sociopathic, they would have been murdering these women.
Right.
Because she describes him as saying that he wishes they would just fall through the floor and disappear. And then she calls them toilet paper. I mean, I've never described someone as toilet paper, and I hate many people.
All it would have taken was a bump to the head.
And these women did nothing wrong. I mean, it just seems crazy. Anyways, so eventually in, I think, 1971, Hogan's Heroes was canceled, and Bob appeared in 2 Disney films, one of which was called Super Dad, which cracked me up for some reason.
He sure is.
And then He actually purchased the rights to a comedy play called Beginner's Luck, and he began touring with it as its star and director. At the same time, he would do guest spots on a ton of TV shows. Eventually, he even had his own short run with the Bob Crane show. I think that only lasted 13 episodes. There was some talk that sort of the reason his career really started dying down is people started talking about his sex obsession, and it started getting out there, and no one wanted to tie their name to a star who might be busted for some, pervo, whatever shit. And especially because he was so wholesome on screen. Like, he was this good guy. He was doing Disney movies, and in the film and TV work just kind of dried up. He did do a few funny things that I want to mention. He taped a travel documentary in Hawaii. That was one of the things he did. That was in 1978. And he also did a Canadian cooking show called Celebrity Cooks. Neither of those things actually aired because they, we'll find out why. And the Celebrity Cooks thing was actually part of the movie Autofocus. Did you see that movie?
No.
Okay. We'll get into that later. But his regular gig was this dinner theater thing. So he's traveling in the country doing this play that he bought the rights for. His friend, John Carpenter, switched jobs. So he became a national sales manager at Akai, which I think is like an audio tape company. And the reason he did that was that he would coordinate his business trips to be in the same town as Crane's dinner theater schedule, so that they could still go out and get pussy together and keep up their videotaping of women.
He really does have a sex addiction.
Right. So he literally rearranged his whole career just so they could keep up this filming and picking up women and filming them at the hotel or whatever. In June of 1978, Crane is in Scottsdale, Arizona, and staying at the Windmill Dinner Theater. It had an apartment complex attached to a dinner theater, and he's performing the play Beginner's Luck. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is June now of 1978. He's in this Winfield Place Apartments. On Wednesday, June 28th, 1978, he did his performance and signed autographs for fans in the lobby after the play. He returned to his apartment with John Carpenter. They were about to head out on the town, but before they did, Patricia called Bob. Patricia is his wife. I don't know if you remember, or Sigrid. And according to Carpenter, the couple had a really huge, loud argument on the phone. That didn't stop these two. They still went to the local bar, and they had drinks with women who they arranged to meet back at the house. At about 2 a.m., the quartet went to the Safari Coffee Shop in Scottsdale, on Scottsdale Road. And then about a half hour later, according to John, he left to pack for his trip back to LA.
John left to pack?
He left the apartment where Bob was staying to head back to LA because he had his job. He was just there for some carousing for the weekend, right, or whatever. So the next morning, Bob's Beginner's Luck co-star Victoria Barry would knock on the door of his apartment at around 2 p.m. on June 29th. The door to his apartment 132A was closed, but it was unlocked. Barry entered the apartment and found the apartment was completely dark. She's quoted as saying, "At first I thought it was a girl with long dark hair on the bed. Because all the blood had turned real dark, I thought, oh, Bob's got a girl here. Now where's Bob? And then I thought, well, she's done something to herself. Bob has gone to get help. At that time, I recognized it was blood. It was like a strange feeling. So upon closer examination, she realized what she was seeing was real. She said the whole wall was covered from one end to the other with blood, and I just sort of stood there and I was numb. Bob was balled up into a fetal position, lying on his side, and he had a cord tied around his neck, which was tied into a bow. So at that point, Victoria runs screaming from his apartment. The police were called, and they came. And, they confirmed basically what she was saying. He was lying on his right-hand side atop this queen-sized apartment bed or hotel bed. He was only wearing boxer shorts and a wristwatch. He had an electrical cord that was, like I said before, tightened around his neck. The pillow was basically up, straight up behind him. There was 2 gashes right above the left side of his head, and then there was a fan of blood across the ceiling. So clearly he had been
on the ceiling.
Yes, he had been struck with something, and there was blood splatters, right. The wall behind the bed was covered in blood. The nightstand lamp was covered in blood. Human tissue was on the wall. The bed sheets and pillowcases were soaked with blood. And this is my favorite part. I mean, as far as murder, I realize that no part of a murder should be your favorite part, but I do like this part. Semen or sexual aid gel, I love that it was described as sexual aid gel, was stuck on the victim's left thigh. And then there's a quote from the assistant to the medical examiner who was collecting specimens, and he said, what's that going to tell you besides he had a piece of ass? Very professional.
That's very professional.
Okay. So at that time, the Scottsdale Police Department was like a really small police department. They actually had no homicide division. So they really weren't prepared to kind of handle this high profile murder investigation. The crime scene, besides all the blood evidence and stuff like that, there wasn't a lot of clues. Other than the fact that there was no evidence of a forced entry and there was nothing stolen from the room as far as they could tell. So they could kind of determine that it wasn't a robbery motive. Also, Bob was attacked, I think they believed, while he was sleeping. So it also wasn't like a heat of passion type of thing, according to their initial findings. They did start to think that he was struck on the head with a camera tripod. So that was like what they were thinking he was hit with. I think there was one there, and then they sort of deduced that one was missing. It wasn't the one that was there, though. There was one missing based on like what they found. So they kind of immediately jumped to the fact that the killer was someone that Crane knew. The medical examiner put together a chronology of what he thought happened in the course of the murder. He said that while Crane was sleeping on his right side, the murderer struck a deadly blow to the left side of his head with some type of heavy, blunt instrument that they think was the tripod, a camera tripod. A second, much lighter blow crushed in his skull, and that's probably what killed him. Then, for some reason, the murderer tied the electrical cord around his neck, but he was already dead, so that was nothing that was, killing him. That wasn't like a cause of death. But it was just sort of after the fact.
They were able to confirm that he died from the head injury.
Yeah,
and not
it was the second,
not strangulation.
Yeah, right. Before the killer fled the scene, he wiped the murder weapon with the bed sheets, and that's why they were like so much more bloody and like soaked with things, and they're smeared on,
right.
Like it was smeared. And then they pulled the sheet up over his head. 2 police officers described the apartment as a very passionate murder scene.
The fuck?
The fuck, I know. So part of the passion might have been the fact that they found a lot of the sex stuff in the apartment. Approximately 50 pornographic videotapes were found at the apartment. The photography equipment that we mentioned before. In the bathroom, things were developing, like things were hanging up, like in the shower, developing. A negative strip was found in the enlarger. Like he had a whole little fucking studio.
That even when he's on the road, he's still got to develop his pictures.
He's passionate about his craft, okay? There was and the negative strip revealed a woman in both clothed and nude poses. And then they also found a huge album of the pornographic pictures once again. So he had it all with him. So when Barry was giving her statement to the police, she was in the kitchen of the apartment.
His wife?
No, this is the woman who found him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The actress.
The woman, right.
So she's sitting in the kitchen of the apartment. While she's sitting there giving her statement of what she found and, all that kind of stuff, John Carpenter calls. They have her pick up the phone, and he instructs her not to say anything that's happened. During the phone call, at some point, the detective takes the phone to talk to Carpenter and kind of gets his story about what happened from him the night before without giving him details of what happened.
Had said.
Or that even Bob Crane was dead.
Right.
Like they didn't tell him anything.
Right.
So according to this phone call, Carpenter said they were out until 1 a.m. and then later he changed that time to 2:40 a.m. He then went on to say that he drove himself to the airport later that morning for his return flight to LA. And then Carpenter said he did call Crane's apartment again at 3:30 p.m. Lieutenant Dean is the name of the detective. He mentioned in his report that he found it odd that Carpenter never asked anything about the incident or where Crane was. So he didn't even ask any questions about what was happening or was Bob Crane okay.
He was just reading off he was
Right.
just reciting statements, basically.
I guess he was just saying it's like one of those things where cops always are like, and it's very interesting how they never asked, is my wife okay?
Right.
You know what I mean? And they
Right.
deduce that that's all meaningful.
Right.
Anyways, so the call was suspicious enough to this guy that they had Carpenter's rental car impounded and searched. So when they had the car searched, they did find several blood smears, and those were tested and determined to be type B blood. So this is before DNA testing. All you could get was like a blood type, right? So type B was the same type of blood as Bob Crane's. Carpenter's blood is type A, and type B is actually a very rare blood type.
I was gonna say.
It's only found in slightly more than 10% of the population. So, the fact that the same type of blood as Bob Crane was found in the car was automatically suspicious. Although, like I said before, it wasn't like a great, gotcha moment because
Right.
it's still just a blood type. It's not like DNA evidence. But it was enough for them to make Carpenter basically their prime suspect. They basically said he's the only one we can find who has the means, opportunity, and physical strength to have inflicted the fatal blows. But they weren't sure about what the motive was. There's a few things that they kind of came upon. They initially suspected that Carpenter was gay and that he felt spurned by Bob Crane in some way.
Fuck him.
Right. And the on these videotapes they found in the apartment, it showed things like Carpenter making love simultaneous to the same woman as Crane. So there was some kind of borderline.
So they were having a three-way with one
Yeah. And then there was also a rumor that Carpenter had borrowed $15,000 from Crane, and Crane was demanding repayment, and he couldn't come up with the money. According to Bob Crane's son, Robert, he's quoted as saying, "My dad had told me that Carpenter was becoming a pain in the ass, that he was planning on ending the relationship with him." And then, like I said before, he also sort of confirmed that he thought Carpenter was bisexual and then in love with Bob Crane, and then reacted to him ending the friendship like a spurned lover.
Right.
There was a few other people that could have been suspects. One was a fellow actor who, at some point, I guess in Texas, had argued with Bob Crane, and I guess in that argument, he swore vengeance. But I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And then also, like, all of the boyfriends and husbands of all these women they were fucking, it could have been like,
Right.
He had tons of men who might have wanted him dead.
Right.
After finding that he fucked and filmed their wives.
Right.
Because he wasn't being like, oh, only single or prostitutes or whatever.
He wanted to fuck whoever.
Exactly. But they basically didn't have enough evidence. So they never arrested Carpenter for the crime. Okay. That was until 1992. So this is 14 years later or so.
Yeah.
So in 1992, Scottsdale detective Jim Raines, he started re-examining the evidence from that case. It was just kind of like a little personal pet project that he became interested in because it was a big star who got murdered and no one knew what happened.
In a very bizarre way.
He persuaded the county attorney to let him reopen the case, and they actually had sort of like DNA testing at the time, but I think it was like in its infancy because we know with the OJ, that was like what, 94?
94.
Yeah. So this is 92. And so they had this new DNA testing, but I think it was still like I don't think people knew how to interpret
it. It's not as good as it is today. Right.
So he tested the DNA that was found in Carpenter's rental car, and it came up inconclusive. He also, at that point, was looking over photographs of the car, and he noticed a piece of brain tissue that was never reported initially.
In the car?
In the car, right. So if there was tissue samples taken, they had been lost at that point. But the judge, an Arizona judge, ruled that this new evidence was still admissible. And in June of 1992, Carpenter was arrested and charged with Crane's murder.
Wow.
So in 1994, the trial was going on. And that's kind of interesting because I was like, maybe this is why we never heard of it, or really because the OJ thing was just all...
That was dominating.
Yeah, and maybe it would have been a bigger story.
Right.
Otherwise. But anyways, so at the trial, Crane's son, Robert, testified about what we mentioned before, that Crane had expressed a desire to end the friendship with Carpenter. He described Carpenter as a hanger-on and a nuisance to the point of being obnoxious. He said that his dad didn't want Carpenter around anymore, and that Crane had called Carpenter the night before the murder and ended their friendship, sorry. Carpenter's attorneys basically attacked the case, the prosecution's case, because it was all circumstantial evidence still at this point. And even the DNA testing was inconclusive. So it was like their one little thing was still, and then they brought in a lot of witnesses from the restaurant where the two men had dined that evening that said they were getting along like gangbusters, like that kind of stuff. They also, at this point, the murder weapon was never found. So it was still all speculation. So they didn't even have like a tripod murder weapon. They didn't, it was all speculation that that's what it was. And then they also disputed discovery of the new evidence, the brain tissue, and just said, basically, it's kind of like very similar to the OJ. It's like, we're going to trust the sloppy police work after all this time. Like nothing was done correctly because it was like a new, like I said before, they didn't have like an official homicide department. So nothing was really done by the book.
In Scottsdale?
Right. So nothing was done by the book. It's like the OJ thing also, where it was like, well, I think that the OJ thing, they really did everything right. But that was the tactic they used. But in this case, it was actually kind of true. And then they kind of went into the assumption that, you know, he's videotaping, photographing all these women in compromising positions, and that it was very likely he could have been, you know, being blackmailed, or he could have been blackmailing these women. Like you wouldn't have no idea, right? So he kind of brought up all the angry husband, boyfriend kind of defense as well. And then he also brought up the actor I mentioned too. So he had, you know, some good things. Carpenter was acquitted. And then he continued to maintain his innocence until he died 4 years later in 1998. 1998, okay. Sorry. And Robert Crane, the son, he kind of didn't believe it. He thinks that Robert was guilty, but he did kind of go on he speculated a bit that it was possible Patricia Olson might have had a role in the crime. And he's quoted as saying, "Nobody got a dime out of the murder except for one person, and that was Patricia, because she was the only person who got any money in his will. None of the kids did." Right. He left the entire estate to Olson.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just have something to say about this. Those poor children had to see pictures of his naked asshole and him fucking lots of different random chicks, and they didn't get any money from his estate?
Right.
That's a fucking ripoff.
And then, so he goes on, and this Crane goes on to say that Patty actually did make money off of Crane's memory, that she would sell crime scene photos, she would sell copies of the autopsy report, and she would sell the XXX rated photos and videos of Crane with women, for a fee of $19.95 a month. So I don't know, like, what the hell? She also marketed T-shirts that had images of Bob Crane having sex with women on them, which I kind of fucking want one of those T-shirts.
I want to wear them to the gym. I absolutely want one of those T-shirts. But also, what is up with this woman? She sounds like the biggest psychopath.
Holy shit. So according to the district attorney at the time, Rick Romley, he said they never really thought of Patty as a suspect, and they were convinced that John Carpenter murdered Bob Crane and basically got off, right? Okay, so now we are cutting to November 2016. So this goes up to pretty recent. The Maricopa County office in November of 2016 let a Phoenix television reporter named John Hook submit the 1978 blood samples that they got from the rental car, from Carpenter's rental car, and they let him use a more advanced DNA technique than the one from the early 90s. And then he actually got those results and then had like a a press conference where he would reveal the results live on TV. And this is another thing. I'm like, how did I miss this? Like,
but
where
November
was I?
2016.
Yeah, that was only like a year ago.
But there was some other shit going on.
Oh, that's true.
I feel like
this case is always getting the shaft from bigger news stories.
I know.
So, so everyone's there, including Bob Crane's son, Robert Crane, or Bob Crane Jr. So Hook is like, revealing these results, and he said, so he's making this pronouncement, and he says the DNA found on the door of John Carpenter's rental car is not from Bob Crane. The test actually picked up 2 DNA profiles. A major contributor is from a man whose identity is unknown, and the second DNA profile is partial profile and was too degraded to reach conclusions. So there was the blood. The blood was from a completely different man, but they just don't know who it was. And there was some blood that was inconclusive. But it wasn't
weird,
Bob Crane.
That's a weird coincidence.
Right. And
it could have hypothetically not even been from an incident involving Carpenter because it was a rental car.
That's right. So Crane's son was captured during the reveal. He mouthed, "Wow."
Wait, I need to find that GIF.
I know, me too. And then he afterwards said that he was really surprised by the news because it basically cleared Carpenter and added more mystery because it's still an unsolved crime. And he said that he was shocked right now because pretty much everyone was convinced that John Carpenter did this, but they just didn't have the evidence.
It sounds like he did it.
But he didn't.
Wait, is the wife still alive?
No, she died of lung cancer, I think a few years after this.
She could have hired a hitman.
Who knows,
honestly.
Right? Okay. So as mentioned earlier, in 2002, there was a movie based on Bob Crane's life and death called Autofocus. It's directed by Paul Schrader, and it starred Greg Kinnear. And I remember when this movie came out because Greg Kinnear had been like a talk soup. Like he had done some acting, but he was basically a comedy guy. And this was like his first dramatic role, and everyone was like shocked by how great he was in it. And he is very good. It's a good movie. This movie kind of took the Bob Crane was a church-going, happily married man who kind of fell under the excesses of Hollywood and became a television star, met Carpenter, and then they just became these deviants and descended into this life of BDSM, sex addiction, and all of this nonsense, right? So the basic plot of Autofocus focuses on the friendship between these two men, and Carpenter is played by Willem Dafoe. It's a really good performance. And this also kind of takes on, this is before Carpenter was officially really cleared. So they're still operating under the idea that he did this. Right. So they really play up this end of the friendship, unrequited love storyline between Carpenter and Crane. There's a really funny scene in it that when I was doing my research, I was watching it. I actually was looking up Bob Crane sex scenes or sex tapes or something like that because I was trying to see if I could watch them, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw one that had the title and I was like so excited and I was like scared to click on it because I was like, I don't know, do I want to see this? And then it ended up being this scene from the movie. So I watched it again just the other day. And the scene was really funny because they would watch these tapes afterwards and like jerk off to them.
Oh.
Like watch themselves having sex but jerk off together. And in the scene, Bob Crane notices something and he keeps rewinding and he's like, that was your finger up my ass.
Oh my God.
And like in the scene, Carpenter is just like, yeah, that's like an orgy. It's a free-for-all, like da-da-da. And Crane was really no homo about it. Like he's like, I thought that was the woman. And I don't know if it's true, but it's like a really funny fucking scene. Oh. So according to Schrader, I saw this quote from him in the article I read. It says, Schrader lighting a cigarette. And this is the quote that he said, Crane and Carpenter get involved in conduct that probably neither would have done alone. In the movie, they have like a scene where Crane and Carpenter are masturbating to the videos. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. It might have been an invention by Paul Schrader. And he calls it his Norman Rockwell moment. And he says, Carpenter was not as important in Crane's life as he is in the film. It is a distortion. My intent with Autofocus is not to be true or definitive. People's lives are actually not that interesting.
I don't know, man.
And with Crane, I wanted to get something meaty. Otherwise, who cares? Would you want to watch a movie about Alan Hale? And that's the skipper from Gilligan's Island. And it's like, if he was doing this shit, I would. Like, if he was like jerking off with Bob Denver or Gilligan.
I really don't think there's any comparison here between the two at all. Bob Crane did, by all these accounts, have a really bizarre,
it's a pretty
life.
interesting life. This isn't just some rando TV star
Who got involved, went to too many parties.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Robert Crane, Bob's son. There was the son from the second marriage that I mentioned briefly, Scotty. Okay. Scotty was not fucking happy with autofocus. And this shit is hilarious to me. All of the stuff that's coming up, I fucking live for. Okay. So he really challenged the accuracy of the movie. He was fucking livid. So here's a quote from him. During the last 12 years of his life, Crane went to church 3 times. Like, that's what he was mad about. He's like, he was not a church-going man.
Oh, whoa. So he was mad.
He's mad. And he said he was a sex addict long before he became a star. I love that this is what he's mad about. So he was mad that Crane was portrayed as this family man when he was always a sex addict, okay?
Like, my dad was always a piece of shit.
Right. There was no evidence that Crane was into BDSM. And then Schrader actually did admit that the BDSM might have been based on his own personal experience. I love Schrader, like, literally doesn't fucking care. And then Scotty also claims John Carpenter and his dad didn't become friends until 1975, but they were on the set of Hogan's Heroes together, according to everybody else. He also said that he was recording sexual encounters from as early as 1956, which is like 10 years before Hogan's Heroes started. And then Scotty Crane calls the movie called auto fiction? That's his big joke.
Sick burn.
And then he said, Schrader's idea is to make my dad dark. Let's make him seedy. Let's make him like a Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. So he was really irritated with his dad's portrayal in the movie. He did say his dad was like a happy, lucky guy. Like, he was a charming guy. So what does Scotty do? He creates a website. Before I say that, like, there is some sort of ulterior motive going on here. He and his mother were shopping a script about Bob Crane's life, like a movie script about it.
Right.
And then that kind of was dead in the water the minute Paul Schrader sold his script. Yeah. And then the brother, Robert, got $20,000 to be a consultant on autofocus. So there is kind of this thing where he got screwed over, basically, in his mind.
He's sore about it.
Right, but it's like Paul Schrader is like an amazing filmmaker. Like, no one cares about fucking Scotty Crane. I'm sorry. The other complaint was that he felt that Bob Crane was portrayed more as a creep or pervert rather than the sexual dynamo he was.
Wait a minute.
This is the son.
Wait a minute. So the son, okay. Because I'm being taken on a roller coaster with this kid.
Sorry.
First, the son, from my impression, is that the film didn't portray his dad dark enough in terms of this is a guy who was not.
No, it portrayed him too dark. But then it was like, he's complaining basically he wasn't a church-going guy. And you're
I feel like when you do the narrative of like, oh, they used to go to church, but then they got sucked into the evils of Hollywood.
Basically, whatever it was, he wasn't happy with. Like, if he was a church-going guy, that bugged him because he wasn't that. But he wasn't also a dark, creepy perv. He was a good, fun-loving, cool.
It was consensual, kinky sex.
Yeah. So he just wasn't. He wasn't fucking happy.
And he was like, and my dad was an excellent lover.
Right. Exactly. So in June of 2001. So this is like slightly before the movie came out. He launches a website called bobcrane.com that has a paywall where you can find photographs and outtakes from his father's sex films, including and also his autopsy report that proved, according to him, that his father did not have a penile implant as stated in autofocus. I'm sorry.
Right.
So his other big complaint is that the movie said that Bob Crane had a penis implant, and he was like, my dad's dick was real.
How dare you?
How fucking dare you?
First of all, no one has penis implants anyway, so I think that's really funny that Paul Schrader. That's such a little kid's idea of
I know.
And then he made his penis bigger.
My dad's dick was real. So on Bob Crane, I've mentioned some of the things, but it was really graphic shit, women performing, oral
his
sex.
son is
his son is posting these videos of his dad getting oral sex and orgy shots.
Oh my God.
Two girls fondling each other, all this kind of shit. And it was once again, it was $19.95 a month, and it was all you can eat buffet.
My dad.
And then he even was selling a snow globe of himself naked.
Wait.
Scotty, you could buy a snow globe of Scotty naked, inside a snow globe. That was something you could buy on the website as well.
Scotty Crane.
Scotty Crane naked in a snow globe.
Why?
I have no idea. So according to Scotty, his dad would have loved the website. And my mom agrees. She says that if he could see that his sex life is a worldwide phenomenon, he'd be so happy.
Dude, this family is
is cemented. I think if my father were alive, he'd be running the site himself. Bob Crane was very talented, very gifted, and a great father. And he had a very large penis. This is a direct quote. By the way, I don't only resemble him from the neck up. All Bobby has to do is drop his hands and I'll be able to tell if he was really Bob Crane's son. Maybe he's afraid to let me see. Is this guy
what?
Fucking for real? So he wants his half brother.
He wants to measure dick sizes.
He wants to basically measure dick sizes with his half brother to see who's the real son. I love that he's here's how I'm going to prove I have a huge dick, because my dad had a huge dick, and we don't just resemble each other from the neck up. Right. This guy's insane.
Oh my God.
So Schrader is actually pretty amused by Scotty, because we're all fucking amused by Scotty.
Not be amused by
so
him?
Here's some things that Schrader has to say about Scotty, which
Is this Scotty Crane? I just looked him up on IMDb.
Oh, yeah. He's kind of hot. Okay, we'll show you pictures of him.
Yeah, we'll post pictures of all these people.
So here's a quote from Paul Schrader. Scotty has a couple of things on his mind that never get off of his mind. One of them is the size of his father's penis.
Wait, what?
This is a quote from Paul Schrader.
About Scotty.
About Scotty. But what can you expect? Bob once took Bobby to the opening of Deep Throat after a baseball game. He acted like that's what people do. Scotty... Bobby does not see his father's behavior as perverse. According to Bobby, my dad never showed me movies of himself. He showed me women with other guys. I thought it was neat. I was watching the new video technology as a male. We can watch naked women in our house. That's cool. Bobby pauses. He did show me photographs, of a threesome he had with Patty and another woman. I guess that could be considered weird. I love when someone's midstream defending something. They're like, well, I guess maybe.
Now that I say it out loud. So this is
that's the other brother.
The first
Robert.
marriage.
And
Robert.
So he's they're both kind of defending their dad's sexual appetites, which is fine. I agree, but come on, when you're starting to show your kids those things,
that's where I draw the line.
Right. And the fact that the thing that that was across the line for him was when it was my stepmom and you in a threesome. That's
I don't think there, like I said before when we were talking earlier about movies that are appropriate for children to see, I don't think there's anything. I think it's way worse for your kids to see.
No sex movie.
I think it's way worse for your kids to see violence in movies than it is to see a film where it's two people who have a love scene and it's a love scene. Do you know what I mean? And there's nakedness in it. But that's a lot different than showing your kids a porn and watching a porn with your kids, because that's meant for arousal. There's no narrative there.
Well, as someone who watched porn with her dad, it wasn't even in him. It was very demented. Exactly. Even when he wasn't in it.
He wasn't in the porn, but you still had to watch porn with your dad.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So according to Schrader, they also negotiated for 6 weeks with Scotty and nothing satisfied him. So they did try to kind of get his approval and take in his opinions.
Before the film was even released.
Right. He said that he wanted the truth to be known, and I didn't quite know how to respond. Part of his truth is letting people know that Daddy had a big penis. That's what truth means to Scotty Crane. So...
Because then they'll know that I have a big penis.
Right. I mean, it is demented. I have never heard this much talk about, can you even imagine being worried that your dad was forgotten for that reason? I mean, it's just so crazy.
I swear to God. And I didn't even want it.
So, and I'm going to just end on this last quote from Bob Schrader because it's pretty great. Bob Crane doesn't really matter. He's not important. I never would have been interested in him. He's just a great way to make a point. And his family, such as they are, keep making that point over and over again. I used Bob Crane as a metaphor for the corrupting influence of even minor celebrity. And his family have fleshed out my premise. They are the movie. Only like Bob, they don't know it.
Jeez, that's dark.
It's really dark, but it kind of makes everything amazing. And I do want to watch the film again because I haven't seen it since it came out. But yeah, so that's the story of Bob Crane, and his family is demented. Like,
dude, can you just imagine his first wife being like, "Whew, dodged a bullet there"?
Seriously, I mean, that was his childhood sweetheart.
Oh my God!
And then you can kind of tell the difference between the first kids, or at least the guy Robert, because there's not
Robert's
much,
a little slightly less demented,
right? And these are the sons. So all the other kids were girls. So I mean,
my God!
So Bob had like at least one good quality, that he didn't show his daughters this shit.
I just hope that the girls are somewhere on Twitter tweeting nasty shit, a la Desi somewhere, that they made it over the other side.
Right.
You know, that would be like such a happy ending.
So I just love this kind of sibling rivalry, and it's all fucking cock swinging, cock measuring kind of bullshit. God.
I just love that Scotty Crane is obsessed with his dad's dick.
It's really weird. Like, you'd think you would know enough to at least not admit to being obsessed with your dad's dick. Like, just picture him looking at it. See right there? You can see how fat it is. There's no penile. Like, just imagine him like treating it like a Zapruder film.
And you know what? I saw a picture of Bob Crane's dick.
It's
Desi
fat.
Showed it to me. It is a very fat dick.
It's a fat dick.
It's a nice looking dick. It's fat if you like fat cocks. A
friend of mine, actually, he texted me and he's like, I'm not going to call you out on Twitter, but there's no pornography with Bob Crane. It's all been taken off the internet. And then I sent him that pic. And then this morning he's like, I just opened that up at breakfast. He was in a restaurant eating breakfast, and I was like, don't fuck with me. Like, I don't just make jokes about fat dick. I take fat dicks very seriously. I take them Scotty Crane seriously. But you know what? I'm going to get that fat dick. What does Scotty Crane care if anyone else has a fat dick? Like,
he's not going to get it.
Fucking Scotty.
Here, I'm just wondering how we can. Desi and I will talk about how we can post that image. We can't post it on Instagram, obviously.
We could tweet it.
We'll tweet it. We'll put it. Don't open this at breakfast.
Anything from us should be don't open this at breakfast.
I kind of agree.
Oh, we can't put it on Instagram, right?
No,
but we can tweet it.
We'll tweet it.
We'll tweet it.
We'll tweet it.
It's pretty hilarious.
We'll do one of those.
It's a montage or a collage.
Do you know that tweet format that's like open for a surprise?
Oh, God.
Where you open someone's picture and it's something cute, like a little doggy in the background.
Oh, God.
We'll do that, but it's Bob Crane's dick in the background. Or scroll up to make the dick fly.
Oh, I don't know how to do that technique.
I don't either,
it's like magic to me.
It is magic to me.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's the story of Bob Crane.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to, we got like a few new Patreon contributors today, and I was so happy about that. As always, giving a shout out to Ron Jeremy, because he's actually a friend of mine, and he has donated. He upped his donation this week, and when I saw that, I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's like, crazy sweet.
You're not getting a tip pick, but I love you. So thank you. That means a lot to me. We also got one today from Heather.
Heather,
and we talked to Heather today earlier. Do you remember who else contributed today?
I don't have the list in front of me.
Anyway, if you want to become a Patreon contributor, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait, we got one from Mark.
Oh, right.
Mark and Aaron. Mm-hmm. We mentioned Frederick, our bud,
what up,
Frederick.
We know Frederick IRL.
We also have from Chad and Dave, Marissa. We actually sold out all of our $10 pledge
which is really exciting.
Yeah.
That's
so we're going to
really
be talking 30 minutes with these people this month, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So I talked to Chad briefly about that this week. We chatted. We got to figure out a time to schedule when we're going to be doing these.
But
chats,
check out our social accounts, All Hollywood Crime Scene, and let us know what you'd like to see as perks. If you have any ideas.
Yeah, if you have perk ideas, we're open for suggestions.
And we're actually working on even having a second episode per week, like a mini-sode. So we're trying to figure out the best format for that. And then we
Right.
have our bonus episodes on Patreon, and those will always be exclusive to Patreon.
Yes.
But we did give a teaser one out today because we had a technical issue.
But we are going to
But we want to show
right.
those episodes are awesome and funny.
Right.
We think.
But you guys really, that's the one episode our regular listeners will get access
Right.
to, but our Patreon contributors
Have access to all of those.
to all the episodes we've released. But we will be, in the future, hopefully, we don't know, maybe by next week, we'll be releasing 2 episodes of Hollywood Crime Scene per week. A regular long episode and then
A mini
episode probably on, I don't know, Wednesday or something, but we'll
Right.
figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But cool.
Yep.
Exciting.
Thanks,
Yay.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.
More taters, Mom.